Green Chakra Mastery. 1. Meeting your whole self. The heart does not open in a single step. Its first chamber is the outer courtyard, a threshold space where you must confront your own shadow before love becomes accessible. Here, every unintegrated trait, every stored emotional distortion, and every rejected part of your personality rises to meet you. Most of us try to hide these parts, judging them as unworthy and pushing them out of sight as if that would make them disappear. They do not. Clearing the lower chakras brings energy to this threshold, but only shadow integration allows passage forward. In the courtyard, you bring these pieces into awareness, understand where they came from, accept them without self-hatred, and extend compassion toward them, gradually redeeming these regions as undeveloped light rather than fixed darkness. The courtyard is the gatework of the heart, the psychological initiation in which you decide whether you are truly ready to love without distortion. 2. Fully accept the quirks and the darker impulses. Some traits are simple to accept, like noticing that you still overwork to feel safe or say yes too often to avoid disappointing others. Other traits feel heavier. Maybe you recently felt a real urge to put someone down who embarrassed you. Maybe you caught yourself wishing failure on someone who hurt you. Maybe you noticed yourself hiding the truth to protect your image or subtly manipulating a situation to get approval. The heart courtyard asks you to own all of this. You acknowledge that these impulses arose, that they are part of the human package, and you choose to forgive yourself. You do not deny your capacity for darkness. You recognize it, hold it with compassion, and understand that these unintegrated pieces only block the gate when they are pushed away. When they are brought into awareness and accepted, they lose their power, and the path to the inner heart begins to open. 3. Emotions are messages that must be brought into the heart. The journey across the outer courtyard is long. Along the way you encounter your own negative emotions, compulsions, and buried longings. Difficult emotions are not mistakes, they are messages. They flag areas where your energy is blocked or unclear and invite attention. Each emotion has a deeper truth inside it, a kernel of wisdom that can only be reached if you bring the feeling into the heart. Working a distortion purely at the level where it arose, for example only in red, orange, or yellow, rarely leads to real self-forgiveness. The law of one suggests a different model. Let the emotion be felt, then move awareness up into the heart and rest in the primary feeling of faith. From there you can balance, clarify, and forgive, rather than simply wrestle with the surface reaction. 4. Use the heart to clean every difficult emotion. Real inner work is a cycle you repeat throughout life. Any time a difficult emotion appears, whether it is shame, anger, envy, fear, or a sense of unworthiness, the first step is to notice it without running from it. Instead of letting the emotion stay stuck in the body, bring your attention to the heart area. Imagine placing the emotion there, as if you are holding your own experience with compassion. From this place, you offer yourself understanding and forgiveness for having the feeling at all. When forgiveness arises, let that softening flow back into the body, clearing the tension where the emotion first appeared. Stay with it until the grip of the emotion loosens a little. Release does not mean the feeling disappears instantly. It means the body unclenches, the charge lessens, and the issue stops controlling the moment. This simple up and down movement of awareness, compassion, and letting go is the core practice. Each new situation will reveal another emotional knot to work with. You repeat the same steps each time. This process gradually clears old patterns and keeps the emotional system open. 5. We did not come here to fix ourselves, we came to learn love. The purpose of incarnation is not to become flawless. It is to learn how to love and how to be loved. The shadow work of the courtyard is not self-repair in a perfectionist sense. It is self-knowledge in service of love. You want to know yourself well enough that you can love yourself honestly, including the parts you once rejected. This honest affection for your whole being is what allows you to stand at the doorway of the inner sanctum without shame. 6. Falling in love with yourself is the doorway. The doorway to the inner heart can always be shut by self-rejection. The guardians at the gate are your own beliefs that you are unworthy to be loved as you are. The central task of the courtyard is to dismantle that belief. You do not have to eliminate every error in thought or behavior. You do have to reach a point where you can enjoy your own company, appreciate your own nature, and extend to yourself the same tenderness you extend to those you love. Only then can you step through the gate and truly rest in the inner sanctum of the open heart. 7. Entering the space of unconditional love. Beyond the courtyard lies the inner sanctum, the purified chamber of unconditional love. The heart will not open into this deeper room until the self is forgiven, accepted, and met with compassion. Even a clear flow from red, orange, and yellow is not enough. The heart requires purification of attitude, not just energy. Every survival pattern and relational distortion reappears here in a more intimate form, asking to be held with tenderness. When you can view your own story without judgment and recognize each imperfection as emerging light rather than permanent flaw, the sanctum opens. This is the genuine fourth density vibration, where love becomes a way of being and service arises naturally, because nothing within you is left outside the circle of your own acceptance. 8. Claim the inner source rather than borrowing another's light. Faith in a beloved figure can open the heart quickly. Devotion to Jesus, a guru, or any outer embodiment of holiness can lift a seeker into the experience of unconditional love, bypassing much of the inner difficulty at the gate. Yet this path carries a cost. When love is accessed only through an external savior, it is never fully interiorized. You may revere the Christ or the Guru, yet never claim that the same consciousness lives within you. The deeper invitation is to embody the awareness you admire. In Christian language, to become a co-heir of divine love and express it through your own life. In Buddhist language, to stop projecting awakening onto an outside figure and recognize the Buddha nature within. The aim is not dependence or blind obedience. It is the realization that the light you once sought in another has always been your own. 9. Service to others needs the heart. Service to self skips it. Positive polarity is rooted in knowing and loving the self and other selves. It requires the heart. A negative player, focused on control and power over others, ignores the heart center completely. For such a person, the heart is useless. Their work is to manipulate self and others toward their chosen goals. Positive polarity asks for something very different. It asks you to know yourself, to like yourself, and to include yourself within the field of love you offer to others. 10. The heart is the bridge between two realities. Red, orange, yellow, and the outer layer of the green center operate within space and time. They correspond to the outer world of bodies, behavior, relationships, and the daily catalysts that shape our personality. The inner sanctum of the heart, along with blue, indigo, and violet, belongs to time and space, the inner metaphysical realm where communication with truth, insight, and spiritual intelligence becomes possible. The heart is the crossing point between these two realities. Its outer layer is still woven into ordinary life, where emotional patterns and human interactions arise. Its inner chamber opens into the deeper world of consciousness, the place where real transformation, magic, and higher guidance begin. 11. Anchor the heart so your true voice can emerge. The green center is the bridge to the blue center, where self-expression radiates without dependence on how others behave. Green is vulnerable, blue is sovereign. A green ray being remains sensitive to the energy of others, while a blue ray being becomes a co-creator. But a blocked green center cannot transmit this radiance. When the heart closes, we lose access to the clarity, stability, and creative power of blue ray. Every disturbance that shakes the heart is actually training us to hold compassion steadily enough for the higher centers to ignite. The task is not only to open the heart, but to stabilize it, so love becomes a reliable foundation for truth, communication, and co-creation. 12. Reopen the heart every time it closes. Keeping the heart open is not a one-time victory. It closes again and again, and each closure offers another chance to return. Faith helps us override the ego's resistance to forgiveness and step back into compassion when our instincts want to collapse. Every moment of contraction becomes another opportunity to choose differently. Each time we reopen the heart, we strengthen it, learn to forgive ourselves and others, and mature into spiritual adults who can love freely. 13. Stay rooted in the heart. Remaining in the heart becomes the core commitment of the spiritual game because everything else depends on it. When we fall out of alignment, we can tumble back into the heart in an instant by remembering that we are conscious players and not victims. This shift transforms scattered, confused moments into opportunities to reconnect with our deeper center. The open heart provides the inner atmosphere from which all wise choices arise, and returning to it again and again becomes the rhythm of spiritual living. The consistency of this return shapes our outer actions more than any technique or discipline. 14. Enter the heart through humility. The entry into the open heart requires a posture of humility that acknowledges our imperfections without slipping into self-condemnation. The barriers at the threshold are not external critics, but our own inner protections that ask whether we are willing to meet ourselves with mercy. The more we practice granting ourselves this permission, the easier it becomes to come back to the heart, even when we feel disheveled, reactive, or off track. Each return strengthens the understanding that the heart opens not through worthiness, but through honest sincerity. 15. Use intention and remembrance to re-enter the heart. The open heart is always available, but entering it requires remembering what we seek and setting a clear intention to return. This intention acts like a beacon that signals the metaphysical world, inviting support and inspiration to flow into us. When we align our will with our desire to dwell in unconditional love, the higher energies meet the rising current of cleared lower chakras, creating the upward surge often described as Kundalini. This meeting of earthly choice and divine inspiration reveals that the heart opens not through effort alone, but through a partnership between human will and the Creator's infinite response. 16. Begin every journey by matching love's vibration. The green ray center becomes the true compass for your entire path. Therefore, the first measure of time well used is whether your inner state matches the vibration of love. Shifting attention into the heart invites you into the holy space within where love rests in its purest form, lighting your way like a sun inside your chest. The simple habit of pausing, softening, and entering inner quiet prepares you to seek truth with clarity. It is the foundation for every deeper movement on the path. 17. Remain centered in the heart. The more time you spend dwelling consciously within your open heart, the more your experience of life shifts. Challenges still come, yet they no longer dislodge you with the same force. A portion of your awareness remains on the game board, steady and watchful, allowing you to respond without losing your center. This remembrance builds resilience, helping you face both minor frustrations and major upheavals with a wider perspective. Over time, serenity becomes less of an aspiration and more of a lived atmosphere, even while surface emotions still rise and fall. 18. Act with faith before you feel faith. Spiritual evolution accelerates when we accept the vulnerability of not knowing and still choose to behave as if trust is already established. Faith is born not on the mountaintops, but in the valleys where certainty is absent and fear speaks loudly. Acting as though we trust the Creator invites real experiences of unity that later become the anchor points of genuine faith. The same principle applies to love. When we act with love towards someone we naturally resist, we create inner space for new vision to emerge. Treating difficult people with kindness, even before we feel it authentically, shifts the heart toward a more compassionate understanding. Behaving as though love is present allows genuine love to arise. This practice becomes a training ground for faith itself, because the heart learns through action what the mind does not yet believe. 19. See through the illusion to regain power. The world appears solid only because the mind assumes it is. Hurtful words, limiting thoughts, and others' actions gain influence only when we accept them as truth. The task is to see through appearances and recognize that what feels absolute is often a construct. When perception shifts, reality shifts with it. This inner clarity decides whether we live as sovereign conscious players directing our own game, or as unconscious pieces moved by forces we never questioned. 20. Grow faith through courageous trust. True faith grows through repeated acts of courageous trust. It does not arrive in grand spiritual moments, but in the quiet tests of daily life, when we respond to difficult people with grace, forgive those who trigger us, and choose to see the soul beneath someone's distortion. Each small leap of trust strengthens the muscles of faith, until acting from trust becomes natural, even when certainty is absent. The first and most powerful act of faith is self-forgiveness. We enter the open heart only when we approach it as we are, carrying mistakes, distortions, and regrets without hiding. Forgiving ourselves allows us to pass the inner guardians of the heart and makes unconditional love possible, because love cannot flow through a self still condemned by its own judgment. 21. Release yesterday's luggage and travel light. Evolution requires releasing the heavy luggage of old self-blame, low self-worth, and rigid stories about our past. Conscious players travel light. They let go of yesterday's errors at the end of each day, not to avoid responsibility, but to deal with the shadow in present time rather than dragging it forward. When we sweep the outer courtyard daily, the heart remains clear and unburdened. Each new morning becomes a fresh beginning rather than a continuation of outdated emotional weight. This practice prepares the heart for fourth density, because only a light, self-forgiven heart can remain open and stable in higher vibration.